If we look at the behavioral model and the three factors that affect your behavior and outcome of behavior, under skills we see a score is moderately low, in other words 2.33 out of a 5. This would mean that the individual does not perceive that they have the skills necessary to be successful at the goal or the task associated with the goal. The situational inhibitor is fairly neutral, so the individual does not particularly see the situation helping or hurting. And lastly, the motivational skill is moderately low, so this individual does not see that they are putting forth the effort necessary to successfully accomplish this goal. So for this individual, we have both a skills and a motivational question we need to probe. Within the motivational model, the EIV model, we find that the individual has a moderately high expectancy. So they do believe that if they did put forth the effort, they could perform at a moderately high level. The instrumentality score is quite high, which means that they are not burdened by uncertainty or a lack of fairness. They do believe that if they perform, they will receive the outcome. And their valence from the behavioral outcome is moderately high. So there's a bit of an expectancy issue and there's a bit of a valence issue within the motivational factor affecting the outcome of behavior. If we look at the valence mapping, we see across these various needs and values a mapping between scores. You see under achievement that they perceive that accomplishing this goal will in fact satisfy a need for achievement. However, they do not have a particularly high need for achievement. So whereas the accomplishing the goal or successful achievement of the goal or successful completion of the goal would in fact be a good achievement, that's not a particular need the individual has. You see also in the area of freedom, they would say that successful completion of the goal would provide them more freedom or more flexibility. But again, their basic need for freedom or flexibility or choice, self-determination, is fairly low. You can see under money or intrinsic value of the job, whereas they perceive successful completion as high, they do not particularly have that need themselves. You'll note that on a couple of the scales, the term ambivalence is placed beside it. This simply means that when the employee was answering the items that make up those scales, there was quite a bit of inconsistency. There was some extreme high and extreme low answers, and this gives you a value category or a needs category that you should probe with the individual more deeply to determine exactly what they do think or feel about those particular needs. Okay, so you've received a profile analysis back which has scores for all these variables that we've now discussed. The question then is, how do you as a leader translate this profile analysis into actions that would raise the probabilities, that would increase the chances that what you do as a leader will in fact enhance the chances of the follower being successful at this particular set of task or goal. So we will take this example, the scores we had, and I will give you an example of a translation. Now, you will not receive a translation back. That your job would be to take the scales and to devise a plan or to interpret it in a way that you would construct your answers. But here's an example of what that might look like for this set of scores. First of all, the employee needs more training or education related to accomplishing the goal than he or she has been receiving. Secondly, while he or she perceives value in accomplishing the goal, inspiring him or her toward the desired level will be a challenge given the low level of so many of his or her own personal needs that are related to goal accomplishment. You can develop purpose by emphasizing how important his or her success is to others and find ways to make the task as enjoyable for him or her as possible. Feedback may be the best tool for leading this employee. Since he or she welcomes feedback from others and feedback is both instructional and motivational, more frequent information about how he or she could do his or her task differently and better may enhance the lack of skill. More importantly, it can be the mechanism by which he or she better understands how his or her success is connected to the success of others. This would need to be emphasized in the feedback message. Although he or she doesn't show any instrumentality concerns, such as uncertainty or lack of fairness, he or she is moderately low on tolerance for ambiguity. And feedback can help eliminate any lack of clarity he or she may have about accomplishing this goal. Given the employee is not competitive, do not try to inspire him or her by using strategies that pit his or her performance against others. Given the relatively low level of achievement orientation needs in this employee, you may be limited in ways to inspire him or her to put forth more effort into the behavior by valuing the behavior and its outcomes. If so, you're then left with inducement methods, which basically means specific requirements in his or her job description and annual goals related to reward and punishment, such as how much flexibility they have, or in fact, do they stay employed, versus raises or bonuses or recognition. So we have given you a description of the variables that you receive in the profile analysis. We've given you an example of how you might translate those variables into actions by the leader. So in conclusion, let's review what we've been doing in this lecture series on leadership and motivation. We've specifically been focusing on two different roles leaders can hold in organizations, or styles of leadership, as you might say. Transactional and transformational. We've described the factors that are associated with each. One, transactional, depending on extrinsic factors. They're structural in nature, and you're trying to induce employees to perform at the desired level. The other being transformational, where you actually invade the hearts and minds of the individual to inspire them to act toward a given goal. This is an aspirational view of leadership. Now, it must be noted several things here. One is you may use both roles or styles of leadership with a given individual, or certainly with your entire team, depending on the behavior and depending on the individual. The point that we want to make in this whole leadership series, lecture series on leadership and motivation, is that if you choose transactional style, or if you choose a transactional role with an individual relative to a given behavior, then you cannot expect them to be inspired. And if you choose transformational role or style of leadership to produce or affect the desired behavior in the leadership, you should expect it to be hard work. One thing you should take from this series is that the work is much more difficult for you as a leader to inspire an individual toward desired behavior than to induce them. However, the reward of an inspired employee is much greater in terms of their performance and the outcomes of their behavior than those that come from simply behavior that is induced or influenced by structural matters within the organization. We hope that you have enjoyed this lecture series on leadership and motivation, or at least we hope that you have found it helpful to you as a leader as you think about and look for ways to be more effective in generating accomplishment and successful achievement within your employees. Thank you.